Ever wonder what an R&D manager actually does all day? I mean, it's got to be more than just the latest gadgets, right?
Right.
We're diving into the world of research and development managers with some fascinating insights from RoleCatcher. And trust me, this is way more exciting than your average job description.
Yeah.
We're talking about skills you didn't even know you needed, what it really takes to climb the career ladder, and even how AI can help you land that dream job.
It's easy to think of R&D as this, kind of mysterious black box where brilliant ideas just magically become these cutting-edge products.
Right.
But in reality, at the heart of it all is the R&D manager. Someone who's not just a scientific whiz, but also like this conductor of talent, the master strategist. They're the ones who make it all happen.
So we're talking about leading teams of like scientists, researchers, even the marketing folks, right?
Yeah.
All working towards a common goal.
It's about bringing people together, making sure everyone's on the same page, which, let me tell you, is not always easy. Especially when you're dealing with complex scientific concepts and those tight deadlines. And that's where those leadership skills really come into play, especially in today's fast-paced R&D world where, staying ahead of the curve is everything.
Speaking of staying ahead of the curve, I was struck by RoleCatcher's description of the typical R&D work environment. You might picture like lab coats and beakers, but it sounds a lot more dynamic than that.
Absolutely. It's not all lab work. I mean, while there's definitely time spent in the lab or on-site, a big chunk of an R&D manager's time is actually in an office setting. Strategizing, collaborating, presenting to stakeholders. It's about connecting the dots between the lab and the other people making the big decisions.
So they're kind of like the bridge then.
Exactly. They're the bridge.
Yeah.
And that means strong communication skills are just as crucial as, scientific knowledge.
And get this, RoleCatcher specifically mentions that travel can be a regular part of the job. Conferences, meeting with stakeholders, maybe even like scoping out the competition. Not your typical desk job.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And that travel actually highlights another key skill that RoleCatcher emphasized, active listening. Think about it. You're meeting all kinds of people, scientists, investors, each with their own perspectives.
Yeah.
Being able to really hear and understand those different viewpoints, it's huge for communication, for collaboration.
It makes you realize that being an R&D manager is about so much more than just like understanding the science, right?
Oh, for sure.
It's about people skills, problem solving, even a little bit of like visionary thinking.
You've got it. And that's actually why RoleCatcher's focus on these seemingly soft skills like judgment and decision-making really stood out to me.
Yeah. When I saw judgment and decision making listed as a core skill, I thought, well, isn't that important for like every job? But then
Yeah.
I thought about the kind of decisions an R&D manager has to make.
Exactly. We're not talking about everyday choices here. Imagine having to weigh the potential of like groundbreaking technology against the risks and costs involved. Or, deciding which research projects to greenlight when resources are tight. These are major decisions, the kind that can really impact a company's future.
It's those judgment calls, those moments where like experience and intuition collide that make this role so fascinating. But let's be real, even with the sharpest mind, navigating that path to becoming an R&D manager, it can feel pretty daunting.
Oh, absolutely.
Thankfully, RoleCatcher kind of lays out a roadmap. They outline these 4 distinct career stages, which I thought was really helpful.
Yeah, and it's a path that shows you how important it is to, build that solid foundation. Like you don't just magically transform into an R&D manager overnight.
Sure.
It's about starting, maybe with a more entry-level position, really understanding those research principles, and then gradually taking on more responsibility as you go.
So it's a climb, not a leap. And to make it even more relatable, RoleCatcher includes these like example profiles for each stage, which I thought was cool. Remember we were talking about that research assistant role earlier? Well, they highlighted how important it is to not just like do the tasks, but to be actively looking for ways to learn and grow, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, they give a great example, actually. They talked about like pursuing additional certifications or, even just taking the initiative to master a new software program. That kind of proactive approach, that hunger to learn new things, it can really make a
It
difference.
shows you're not content with just like the bare minimum, right? You're always pushing yourself.
Exactly. You're adding value.
So to all our aspiring R&D folks out there listening, take note.
And this whole idea of continuous learning, it becomes even more important as you move up to that next stage, the research scientist.
Okay.
Because now it's not just about following instructions. You're designing experiments, you're analyzing data, you're actually contributing to the field.
And they even mention presenting those findings like at international conferences.
Right.
Talk about pressure.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show you how important communication skills are throughout your entire R&D career.
Yeah,
Because you're not just working in isolation, you're part of this global community.
totally. And that community just keeps expanding as you move into that product development specialist role. This is where it gets really interesting because it's where those scientific breakthroughs, they start to become like actual products.
Right. This is where the rubber meets the road.
Mm.
And you're not just thinking about the science anymore. You've got to factor in the business side of things, the market.
Yeah, like will people actually buy this?
Exactly. Can we even make it
At scale.
at scale?
This is where that product development specialist comes in.
They're like the bridge between the R&D folks and the business and marketing teams.
It's like they have to be fluent in 2 languages.
It really is.
And speaking of languages, RoleCatcher uses that exact phrase, speaking different languages, to describe one of the core skills for R&D managers.
Oh, yeah. And they're not just talking about, like, knowing French or Spanish, although that never hurts.
Right.
They're talking about being able to take these complex scientific ideas and explain them in a way that anyone can understand.
It's like being a storyteller almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You've got to bring people along on that journey.
Yeah.
And that takes us back to those leadership skills we were talking about earlier. It's about inspiring people, building consensus. It's not easy.
Yeah, taking something from that initial idea, that spark, all the way to a real product.
Exactly. It's a process.
It's amazing how all of these things we've been talking about, the research skills, the communication, the leadership, it all kind of culminates in that R&D manager role.
It does.
But, let's be real for a second. Even with all the right skills and experience, just landing a job in this market, it can feel like you're trying to win the lottery sometimes.
It really can. It's so competitive.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you stand out? Everyone has a great resume. Everyone's passionate.
Right.
And that's where I think these insights from RoleCatcher about AI, like how it's changing the job market, I think that's super valuable.
Yeah. When I got to that section on RoleCatcher's AI-powered features, I have to admit, I was a little skeptical at first. It felt kind of like, is this some magic job hunting trick?
Right.
But then I kept reading, and it actually makes a lot of sense. It's really about using technology to make the job search less random and giving you a better shot.
Totally. In today's job market, it's not enough to just like blast out a generic resume and hope for the best.
No.
You have to be strategic.
You have to understand your audience, know how to showcase your skills.
Exactly.
So tell me more about how this AI thing actually works. It almost sounds too good to be true.
Okay, so picture this. You create this detailed profile on RoleCatcher. You put in your skills, your experience, what you're looking for. And on the flip side, companies are doing the same thing.
Oh.
They're building profiles of their ideal candidate.
So it's kind of like a dating app, but for jobs.
That's a great way to put it. And that's where the AI comes in. It's like a matchmaker. It connects you with companies that, you're a good fit for based on all those details.
So you're not just sending your resume into a black hole.
Exactly.
That's huge. But it's not just about getting your foot in the door, right?
Nope.
RoleCatcher's AI, it helps you throughout the whole process.
The whole thing. They've got this huge database of interview questions.
Oh, wow.
And not just general ones either. We're talking like tailored to specific roles, industries, even your experience level.
It's like having a cheat sheet for your interview.
Right. And it gets even better. They don't just give you the questions. They also tell you what the interviewers are really looking for in an answer.
So they basically give you the inside scoop. That's pretty cool.
It's like having a secret weapon for your job hunt.
Right. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about how those early career moves, they really set the stage for everything that comes after. Like you were saying, that product development specialist role, that's a real turning point.
Totally. That's where you see that intersection
Yeah.
of like the science and the business side. It's not just about, will this experiment work anymore?
It's, will this actually sell?
Exactly. Will people use it? Can we make it affordable? They're thinking about the market, production costs. I mean, they've even got to think about regulations and stuff.
It's a lot to juggle,
Oh, yeah. They're wearing a lot of hats.
which I guess is good training for becoming an R&D manager, right? Because that's like the ultimate juggling act.
For sure. You're leading teams. You're setting the vision. You're making those big decisions, the ones that can really impact, whether a company succeeds or fails when it comes to innovation.
And doing it all in a field that's constantly changing.
Exactly. I mean, think about how fast technology moves,
Yeah.
how the market's always shifting.
Yeah.
R&D managers have to be on their toes.
So not a career for someone who likes things to be like predictable and routine.
Not exactly. But if you're someone who likes a challenge, who wants to be on the cutting edge of things, it can be so rewarding. And that's actually what I found so inspiring about diving into all of this with RoleCatcher. It's easy to get bogged down in the day-to-day of job hunting, you know?
Totally.
But this reminds you that it's about more than just finding a job. It's about finding your path, something you're passionate about.
Absolutely. And that goes for everyone, whether you're just starting out as a research assistant or you've been in the game for years and you've got your sights set on that top job. The journey matters just as much as the destination.
Couldn't agree more. Keep learning, find some great mentors, and don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone.
And hey, if you need a little help along the way, resources like RoleCatcher, they're out there. They can make a real difference.
Absolutely.
Well, that's about it for our deep dive into the world of R&D managers. We hope you found it helpful and maybe even, I don't know, a little bit inspiring. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep reaching for those big goals.